Should the Sharks sign or trade pending free agent Alexander Barabanov? I'm going to make the case for both sides and what I think, what I would do if I was Mike Grier. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at Inside the Rink. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you got to do, just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can subscribe on YouTube as well, or do both. Both is great. And today we're going to be discussing one Alexander Barabanov, kind of look at his road here, what the Sharks actually have with Alexander Barabanov. We're going to look at some other comparable contracts and what that were signed last offseason that I think would be fair market value for Barabanov, and see if those were kind of where he would fit in with those. And then we're going to look at some trades that happened last offseason and kind of see what type of value the Sharks would potentially getting back for Barabanov. And then I'm going to make my decision on what I would do if I was Mike Grier. So before we get into all that, I do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. All right, so what do the Sharks have with Barabanov? I think let's kind of rewind the tape here and kind of look at Barabanov's journey to where we're at right now. So remember, Barabanov was not drafted, signed as a free agent out of Russia, out of the KHL, with the Toronto Maple Leafs on a one-year deal at $925,000. He put up some pretty decent numbers in the KHL with SKA St. Petersburg. I don't know if it's SKA or SKA if they spelled out, but whatever. In the 2018-2019 season, he had 46 points, including 17 goals, 29 assists in 58 games. Sounds pretty much what we know from Barabanov right there, that type of season, right? And then the season before, his last season in the KHL, he had 43 games, 11 goals, 9 assists for 20 points in that season. And then signed with the Maple Leafs, where he kind of sat on the bench for most of the season. He played 13 games in the 2020-2021 season. That was the weird 56-game season where he had in 13 games, he had 1 assist. Also played with the Marlies that year, where in 2 games, he had 5 points in 2 games. Then, of course, the Sharks traded for him, played a couple games with the Barracuda, and then got the call up to go play in the NHL. Where in those 9 games, we all know he's had 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points during that time. Of course, he was a RFA, and the Sharks gave him $1 million. He was a UFA. Excuse me. He was a UFA. Sharks gave him $1 million contract, kind of a nice little prove-it contract from Doug Wilson and company, and he followed it up with a really nice season. Right, and the 2021-22 season had 70 games, had 10 goals, 29 assists, 39 points total that year. Then Mike Grier comes in, gives him another contract. It was the Mike Grier, Joe Will. It was signed, right before Mike Grier got there. So signed at the end, as soon as this 2022 season ended, he signed in May with Joe Will. 2-year deal at $5 million, so 2.25 guaranteed, 2.25 million AAV with a 10-team no trade clause. So he can basically pick 10 teams he does not want to get traded to. And then last year, followed it up with another really great season. So let's dig into kind of what Barabanov is for the Sharks right now by looking at some of the numbers. And I think you have to start with his normal kind of stats here. Barabanov last year, 68 games, 15 goals, 32 assists at 120 shots on goal. Average time, that's keep an eye on this, especially when we start to compare. 18:03 average time on ice. Corsi for 49.81. So when he was on the ice, the Sharks had 49.81% of the shot attempts. The goals for 44.86. So when he was on the ice, the other team scored basically 55% of the goals. We know how bad the Sharks team was last year. Digging into kind of his evolving hockey numbers, he played way over first line minutes last year. He had over 1,000 minutes at even strength, also played on the top power play, 184 power play minutes. Didn't play shorthanded, but if you're looking at the graph here, 65th percentile offensive player, 20th percentile defensively, and then 47th percentile overall. So Barabanov, known for his offense, especially compared to his peers, for as much as he plays. And then a positive on the power play as well, with the goals above replacement and expected goals above replacement. But again, the defense, it's okay, especially compared to like other first line forwards. But what does Barabanov do really well? And this is where our good friend Corey at All Three Zones kind of breaks it down. So offense, shots per 60 is not like he's not a volume shooter, right? His thing is creating opportunities for others, right? Chance contributions, chances per 60, chance assists per 60. He is really good at kind of creating those, right? He's not going to be your primary shooter usually. He's going to be setting people up. His passing, some great numbers here. Point shots, set up per 60. Again, Barabanov's not the dude at the point, but passes from the center lane per 60, he's pretty good at that. High danger assists, so setting those other guys up with prime opportunities. That's where Barabanov thrives. Deflections, assists. He thrives in these areas. Guys like Couture, right, getting to that, kind of getting those guys in positions to try to score. Even his zone, and then the other thing that he does really, really well is his zone entries. Zone entries per 60, off the charts, right? If it wasn't Erik Karlsson, Barabanov was kind of the guy, and that's really what helped to unlock Logan Couture, was his ability to successfully carry the puck in the zone. Barabanov was a monster at bringing the carrying the puck in the zone with controlled entries. You look at his controlled entry percentage, controlled entries above 60, entries with passing play. Like, he's just really good at getting the puck into the offensive zone. And even the defensive zone, he was good at kind of keeping other guys from getting the puck into the zone and kind of going to get the puck, which was, and getting the puck out of his own zone. So that's what Barabanov does. Barabanov is a transition monster who helps to facilitate his teammates around him. And I think putting him with a potential shooter, like if Zadina or Duclair, you're going to see production, a monster production increase for Barabanov, because that is what he does. He puts his teammates in great positions to succeed. So before we get into some potential trades, some potential contract extensions, all that good stuff, do need to take a little break here and talk to you guys about our good friends over at FanDuel, because right now you can snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you think about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get on the action. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, overs, unders. We got all the hockey ones starting to come in. I think the Sharks are set at 65.5, which is the absolute worst points in the league. So if you think the Sharks are going to be full on tanking, there could be some money there to be had. So every time they lose, that's one step closer to kind of cashing out on your bank account. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, so the case to resign. And we're going to look at some guys and kind of where they compare to Barabanov contract-wise. And you have a good player. Barabanov is a good hockey player, and you found him basically for free, right? You traded away Athanasiou, who's tearing it up in the SHL. I think he was SHL MVP last year. Cool. You found a good NHL player in Alexander Barabanov. And I know the age is going to turn, he's, turning 29 or just turned 29. So again, he's probably on the back, starting kind of going through his peak. But again, he doesn't have as much miles, right? I know he's playing in the KHL, but like he just does, this is what his fourth year in the NHL now. You have a good player, and your job is as a general manager is to find good players. And I think you have found a very good player. So what would a potential contract look like from Alexander Barabanov? That's a great question. So let's look at some guys who signed contracts this offseason, and what I think very comparable numbers. I try to kind of compare numbers, see what the contracts look like. And if I was Barabanov's agent, these are the contracts I would compare with to try to get my dude paid. So Andreas Athanasiou, kind of comparable. I think, as you'll see in a minute, I think Barabanov is a little bit of a player. But last year with the Chicago Blackhawks, had 81 games to 20 goals, 20 assists, 175 shots on goal, 16 minutes average time on ice, 43-41 Corsi for, and 40% goals for. He signed a 2-year deal at $4.25 million AAV with the Blackhawks. And yes, the Blackhawks have a little bit more cap space. Maybe they have to pay that kind of premium to get guys to stay because they're a rebuilding team. And the Sharks might be kind of in that situation as well. Sharks are going to have plenty of cap space going into next year. I think they're around $36 million in cap space that they can kind of do what they want. So they will have some guys that they just need to try to resign. But comparing Barabanov to Athanasiou, they're comparable offensively. I think Barabanov does a better job with the goals for, but Athanasiou is not as good defensively. Barabanov does a better job of the kind of limiting shot attempts compared to Athanasiou. So remember, Athanasiou got a 2-year deal at $4.25 million. Ivan Barbashev, 5 years, $25 million deal at $5 million a year with the Vegas Golden Knights. In 82 games, had 16 goals, 29 assists, 126 shots on goal, 1645 average time on ice, 4571 Corsi for, 52.48 goals for Barbashev. And then comparing the numbers, they're kind of similar. I think Barabanov's a little bit better defensively, and maybe Barbashev is a little bit better at kind of generating, shot chances per 60 than Barabanov. Barabanov's really hard to kind of put together, but he signed a 5-year, $5 million. I think it was a lot to do with his play in the playoffs, and unfortunately, Barabanov isn't going to have that opportunity with the Sharks, at least most likely. So, last one, Michael Bunting, a little bit younger, a couple years younger, even though he's an old man. He signed a 3-year deal at $13.5 million at $4.5 million AAV. 82 games for the Maple Leafs last year, 23 goals, 26 shots, 174 shots on goal, much more of a shooter than Barabanov, 15.48 average time on ice, Corsi for 51.7, goals for 64.36. Playing with the Maple Leafs, they do score a lot of goals. His numbers offensively are way, way better than Barabanov. That does help when you're playing with better players on a good team, but his defensive numbers aren't as good. And Bunting did play a lot more even strength, not as much power play time as Barabanov did. So I think what you're looking at as a potential contract for Barabanov, kind of looking at those numbers, I think you're somewhere around $4.5 million. Whether it's 3 or 4 years, you can kind of go from there. But I think a 4-year deal at $4.5 million, that would put it at 18 total. So a little similar to the Kevin Labanc deal. Labanc coming off a much better season, but again, we don't know what Barabanov's season is going to be here. If Barabanov's pushing 60 points, Barabanov could have a legitimate ask of $5 million a year for his contract. This is probably going to be his time to make his big contract for him. So he's going to be asking for as much money as possible. But I think a kind of looking at the Kevin Labanc contract is a really reasonable framework for Barabanov this season, right? Especially if Barabanov has the type of season that I think he's going to have. I think he's going to be one of the top 5 scorers on the team when it comes to points, right? I think Hurdle's going to lead the way. I think Couture is going to be right there, and then I wouldn't be surprised if Barabanov is actually 3rd. Maybe Duclair is in there, Eklund. Like those are my top 5 in some order. But like Kevin Labanc signed a 4-year deal at $4.725 million. Yes, it was the beginning of the pandemic, right? That was signed October 2020. We didn't know how long the salary cap thing was going to be. Turned out it was a very bad contract, just because Labanc never kind of reached the production. But I think 4 years at $18 million is a very fair contract for both parties. That would put him again at $4.5 million per season, and you hope that he can kind of live up to that. So again, we'll see what happens with Barabanov, but I think that's kind of the starting point right there for both parties. So Sharks going to have plenty of cap space. Going into next off season, they're going to have some decisions that they want to make. But if they want to bring guys back or sign guys, they're going to have the ability to do that, right? Labanc's coming off the books. You're not paying Labanc, right? Mike Hoffman's coming off the books. Duclair is going to be another big decision if you want to keep Duclair, if you want to trade him. Luke Cunnin, RFA, so if you want to keep Cunnin, still going to be able to kind of finagle the contract a little bit there. Oscar Lindblom is coming off the books. Philip Zadina, RFA, so you can and Radim Shimmick's coming off the books, right? He's not going to be back. Ty Emberson, if he's still here, whatever his future is, he's an RFA, and then Capo Kakinen's a UFA. So none of these guys scream like big monster contracts, right? Would you be surprised if Barabanov and Duclair were the ones who got the biggest contracts, at least dollar-wise, or AAV, that I would put my money on Barabanov, to be honest. So if we want to look at the trades, let's do that. But before we do that, need to take a quick break and talk to you guys about our good friends over at Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. You don't have to spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills. We can do it all with Indeed. You can find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of personal hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match. They have assessments, virtual interviews. If you hate waiting, Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Indeed does the hard work for you, right? Sponsor job and boom, instant match shows you the candidate whose resume is on Indeed and fit your job description. Immediately after your post with instant match, you can start hiring fast. So join over the 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent. They know you need to grow your business, make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applicants that match your must-have job requirements. So visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for for everyone. Need to hire. You need Indeed. All right. So what are some potential trades if Mike Grier says, you know what, we're going to keep trying to gather assets right here. Barabanov doesn't fit our long-term, he doesn't fit the timeline, right? We're focusing on guys like Eklund, and you're focusing on guys like Will Smith and Quentin Musty. Barabanov, who's about ready to turn 30, just doesn't fit the timeline for these guys. So let's try to get strike while the iron's hot and try to get a quality piece. So 2 trades I found that I think would make a lot of sense. And these names are going to sound really, really familiar here. So let's start with Ivan Barbashev, who got traded to the Vegas Golden Knights last year from the St. Louis Blues. And Ivan Barbashev went to the Blues for one Zachary Dean. Zachary Dean was a 30th overall pick in the 2021 draft by the Vegas Golden Knights. He's turned 20, left-handed, 6-foot centerman playing over in the Q. Last year in the Q, he had in 50 games played, he had 70 points, including 33 goals. So basically, the Blues turned Ivan Barbashev into a B plus prospect for them. I think that would be pretty similar, at least for the Sharks. If you wanted to trade Barbashev, if you wanted to trade Barabanov, you wanted to get a prospect, right? Kind of look at the way that Mike Grier has kind of handled his business the last couple of seasons of trying to kind of acquire those type of players who are, close to NHL ready. And looking at Barbashev's contract when he got traded, it was pretty close to Barabanov's, right? He has signed a 2-year, $4.5 million, so just a little bit under Barabanov's $2.5 million a year contract. So similar contracts. And I think if you would be getting a potential late first, early second round prospect for the Sharks, if you wanted to try to go that route, trying to get one of those guys. So, all right. So the Nino Niederreiter trade, Nino Niederreiter a little bit different. He had 1 year left on his deal, at two years at $4 million a year. So when he signed that with the Preds originally, but so Winnipeg kind of getting a little bit more of a cost control guy for this season. Sanchez's last year of his deal. Niederreiter got a second round pick for the Preds got a second round pick for Nino Niederreiter, and that pick might feel pretty good, especially with the Jets being, who knows what the Jets are, right? It feels like if you trade Connor Hellebuyck, this thing could be kind of over here really quick for the Jets, and they could be looking to try to clear out assets, and that second round pick could turn out to be a pretty high second round pick for the Jets for the Preds this season. So I think that's kind of what you're looking at potentially for Alexander Barabanov, right? Barabanov getting you a second round pick, or probably like a high B level prospect. If I'm Mike Grier, I honestly just keep Alexander Barabanov. I think you give him something like a 3, try to stick to 3 years. So maybe if you have to go up a little bit in cash, Sharks have plenty of cap space right now. If you want to give him a 3-year, $5 million deal, I think that's very fair for both parties, right? $5 million a year for what Barabanov's doing. If Barabanov is going to be around a 50-point player for you for the next 3 seasons while you have young guys kind of continuing to grow and develop and come into the system, that's what I would do. I think Barabanov, you found free money with Barabanov. He's been a great addition to your team. And yes, I get the kind of burn it down, but at some point, like, this team is going to have to start to transition. I think Barabanov is a guy who can continue to help out this team because I think his skill set, his ability to carry the puck, and his ability to pass to high danger spots, I don't see those kind of just falling off a cliff, right? He's going to make the players around him better on the ice. And if you start putting other young, skilled players around him, I think Barabanov is going to be able to help these guys come along quicker. And you're not kind of putting them where they're having to really carry the load themselves. And I think Barabanov is a perfect complementary guy on a line. You're going to have plenty of cap space. I don't think Mike Grier is going to be out big game hunting for, whoever is the best free agent. I think he's going to add some smart player, like make some smart decisions and add pieces that are going to help you long term. But the Sharks are starting to clean up their cap, and I don't see Mike Grier just adding a bunch of stuff to it. But you're going to have plenty of cap space. Kind of reward a guy like Barabanov, who I think is still going to be able to contribute for the next 3 or 4 years. So that's what I would do. I would sign Barabanov, unless if a team offers you a first, then you got to think really hard. But I was looking at some of the other ones. It's probably going to be that second round pick or a B plus prospect. I think I'd rather just have Barabanov for the next 3 or 4 seasons than the lottery scratcher there. So I think if you're Mike Grier, I think Barabanov's going to be he's going to take the belt away from Mario Ferraro as the highest paid free agent that Mike Grier signed. And I think Barabanov is more than deserving. He's come here. He's worked hard. He's really kind of helped, especially on a bad Sharks team. I think he's really kind of found his niche on this team, and he's been a huge asset for you. And I think you should reward that. It kind of sets a tone as Mike Grier's. Yes, they're going to be really rebuilding for the next couple of seasons, but you want to set that tone of kind of taking care of your guys. And I think the Sharks should do that with Barabanov. Like I said, I would re-sign him and just go with it. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow, where we will recap the final preseason of the games. The Sharks take on the Kings in Salt Lake City. This is gonna be episode 900 for me of Locked On Sharks. I can't believe it's already been 900. So yes, we'll be back tomorrow. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts, and of course, you can subscribe on YouTube as well. You can follow the show on all Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryhole. And until tomorrow, bye, friends.